So we were just finishing up this page, page 33, and imagine all those dots are there. What you would expect to see is many values. Now, of my small, 5 is such a small sample, I'm not surprised. I kind of just have some random values. But we would see more values around 0, possibly, values at 0 also. And as we get out to the sides, less and less values. So we would see something that had some sort of normal curve shape, right, in this area. Now, we didn't actually do this experiment, so it's hard to say like exactly what those values are, but from that curve, we can answer the questions on the next page. What is the shape of the distribution of re-randomized difference values? So that's what we just did, and we should say that see that's approximately normal. Now, I know I didn't get any values that were at 0, but basically things would balance out and it would be centered around 0. There's no reason that we would get more negative or more positive values. And even though I didn't, as I said, we would start to see them kind of bunch up towards the 0, and we would get a lot of the values in the middle. Based on your class dot plot, do you think the difference value from the driver's education experiment, so that was a -10, happened by chance, or was it a statistically significant difference? So this is what we say if we think it didn't happen by chance and it was a real difference. So based on our dot plot, and I don't know what would happen in class, -10 is usually kind of on the border of where things go. If it was in the middle, 95% of those dots, we would say that it probably happened by chance. Okay? If it was outside, and I don't have a lot of room here, so we're going to write this up here. If it was outside, we would say it's not by chance because it doesn't happen by chance very often. So we would say that it's statistically significant. And we'll have more specific notes on this in a little bit. Based on the dot plot, what is a range of difference values that could have reasonably happened by chance? Apply what you learned earlier this unit. So this would just be finding some sort of confidence interval, right? Stuff inside would happen by chance. Stuff outside would not happen by chance. So we sped up that shaking the chips very quickly. You guys saw how quickly it is just to randomize values using a spreadsheet. We're going to speed it up even more. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to a website that is called lock5stat.com. Okay. So this is a statistics website with a really nice applet for these type of things. So we're going to click on stat key in the left column. In the right column, we're going to click on the test for difference in means. We're finding the difference in two groups. And then it gets a little tricky from here. In the top row, click on edit data. Not tricky as in difficult, but just tricky in, a lot of steps. We're going to delete the data that is currently in the pop-up window. Then we're going to go back to our spreadsheet. We're going to click on the third tab in our spreadsheet. So if you look here, it says random, it says lock stat data. That's what I named this one. Okay. Now I have this split up in a way that it's going to work well with the website. We're going to copy all of the data, cell A1 through B21. So we're going to right click, or you can control C, and I'm just going to copy that information. And then we're going to paste it here. Okay, so it's all in there, and this is in a form with the spaces in between that I can read. And then we're going to click OK. Okay, so our data is now in this lockstat. Now lockstat, you're going to see, we're going to, in the third row, we're going to click generate 100 samples. Okay, so this is pretty cool because it did way faster. So it basically has a spreadsheet inside of it, and it randomized 100 times and calculated difference values and then put them on the plot. So we'll notice centered around 0, we have some higher, we have some lower, okay? Then we can click on reset plot and just play around with, and hopefully you're going to this website too, there's 1,000 samples. and here's 1,000 more, and here's 1,000 more. And we can see as we generate these samples, imagine, if we were making 3,000 samples by shaking them up in a bag, it would take us hours, maybe a day to make 3,000 samples if we were working on our own, but the computer can do it really quickly. We can generate one sample at a time. So this is more similar to what I was doing with the spreadsheet, right? And it's kind of interesting to watch. We could get 10 at a time, 100 at a time, right? There is a limit to it. And we start to see that normal curve appear. Okay. So the generation, now one thing we can do here, I'm just going to clear this. Let's say I generated 100 samples. Okay. That means we're going to cut off 2.5 on each side. 1, 2, we'll say 3. 1, 2, 3. So we see we're in between -10 and 10. So that -10, it's kind of tricky on this one. And it's something, we would talk about. Right now, we're just kind of getting the idea. -10 is right on the border of statistical significance. Okay. If we did 1,000 samples, I would have to cut off 25 on each side. I actually think we would have cut off the -10 this time. So this just shows that, we're kind of in that border, which could happen, right? We could be on the border of not sure. And we'll talk about what we'll do with that. On a Regents exam, it'll also always be super clear. So on the next 2 pages, we're going to kind of summarize what we get out of this. Also, you'll see here there's something called left tail, right tail, two tail. We'll start to talk about when we just work on one side on the next page.